following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Hi, this is Ken Gidge, and this is the Art of Politics, the only show of its type. I am a liberal Democrat, and my partner here is an extreme conservative Republican, and boy, are they in trouble. Bill O'Brien, how are you?
I was looking for somebody else, extreme Republican.
Oh,
I think I'm in the mainstream.
Well,
here, Ken,
let's go over something that just took place last week, which we didn't talk about. By the way, did Pete
Silver,
yeah, was he happy with the interview?
Well, I thought it was a pretty good interview. It gave us an opportunity to look over some of his positions, and most importantly, I think it gave some of the viewers an opportunity to get to know him a little bit more.
Well, the other guest will be on. Not as political as Pete, but boy, she's worked very hard. Well, it's something we'll talk about. But I want to get something out that that I had a few Democrats say, why didn't you call him on this? So let's just bring it up for a moment. It's a comment that you made regarding Obamacare, is it 1850 slave law? Explain what that was, and that went public.
So it's the nature of my party to talk about historical references and to turn to principles and policies in order to conduct a political debate. And so we look at Obamacare and the intrusion on personal liberty and the attack on personal liberty, and we look for a reference there. And
or you?
And I think an appropriate reference. Well, I wouldn't expect you to, but
that's right.
we look for an appropriate reference. And in terms of the assault, on personal freedom, it is as extreme, a little bit more widespread. It affects more people, but it's extreme in a redoing of the federal government's relationship to individuals. As was the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850. And you know what's really telling?
No, wait, but that's what you said. It's as bad as the Slave Act of 1850.
No, I didn't say that. I said it's as destructive of personal liberty. I know the president, when he referenced my mark, President Obama, misquoted it as well, just as you are. But nonetheless, or he actually quoted it and then misconstrued it afterwards. As destructive of personal liberty as the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850. And the reaction to that remark is really telling.
You did a lot of interviews on that.
The Wall Street Journal, Newsweek, and so forth called me on it, and we talked about it. But you know what's really interesting about that whole episode? It's very telling about the political dysfunction of our times, the art of politics of our time, because whether or not that's a legitimate reference or not, and I think it is legitimate. I think it really talks about the role of federal government vis-a-vis the states and the individuals. The reaction to it was personalized. The criticism of me was very, very personal. I ended up getting emails from people as a result of what was being said by national Democrat leaders and the Democratic Party leaders in the state. Emails from people offering to put me to death, people who suggested that my ancestry included farm animals, people who offered to come
What
over.
type of farm, man?
Actually, there was enough of them.
Jackasses or no?
No, others actually. And people who offered to come over and do violence to me and my family and so forth.
Do you think it's just strictly Democrats, or do you
No,
think
I
it's
have no
black
idea.
people?
No, I think I have no idea. I think it's just you know that your problem with the Saul Alinsky approach of conducting political discussion, which is
Saul Alinsky, explain it.
Saul Alinsky wrote a book called something for radicals, organizing for radicals, I think it was. Saul Alinsky is important because it's his organization that Hillary Clinton worked in Chicago. It's the successor to his organization that Barack Obama worked for in Chicago. The book's called Rules for Radicals. And one of his rules, he has a list of rules. Rules number 5 is personalize, marginalize, and demonize your political opponent. So that's why we see a lot of the name calling going on. You know, we see it. You know, the government has a shutdown right now, and we see it. We see it now.
Wait, no, hold on. So let's stick with this. 1850 Slave Act is as bad as Obamacare.
Didn't say that. I said it's as destructive of personal liberty.
So that meant the slave owners could come up to New Hampshire and grab the slaves and bring them back.
And the federal government said, we're going to make it illegal for the state of New Hampshire and illegal for the people of New Hampshire to not cooperate. In other words, you have to cooperate with that slave owner and the agents of another state in denying the freedom to an African American and in assisting and arresting anyone who's helping that African American gain freedom. And so in terms of that assault on liberty, indeed, the individual mandate of Obamacare, which for the first time in over, 226 years of the federal government, says to individuals, you have to purchase a service from a private company.
That's Obamacare.
That's part of Obamacare. Okay. And if you don't, we will take money out. We'll fine you. We'll take money out of your bank
from
account.
$95 a year
up to thousands of dollars.
Yes, if you
up to thousands of dollars. And that's the first. That's really destructive.
So so all right, now hold on. What were you thinking? He's a black president. Can't you see how
will you
people
guys
would
get over
intertwine this?
Will you guys get
the
over
Slave Act?
Will you guys get over the race card? How many race cards?
How many
race cards do you have in there?
I didn't say 1850 Slave Act and he's a black president.
How many
That's
race cards?
why people are upset.
Oh, of course they're not. They're upset because Democrats are always upset when you present them ideas because they want to conduct a debate that is similar to the one that's being conducted now when it comes to the government. Want to shut down, not
but
slim
are
down.
you telling me you didn't even consider that he was a black man when you came up with that with this whole saying?
You know, I'm not as racially attuned. I'm not a member of the Democratic Party, which has been the party of slavery, segregation, and racial pandering.
Black people and women and poor in the party.
It has convinced, and this is the racial pandering. It's always been a party that builds itself on racial identity, whether it's the party of slavery, the party of Jim Crow, or the party of affirmative action that has built itself on racial pandering. And it's unfortunately, and to the loss of the African American community, convince the African American community that they're victims and they need government to provide reparations.
Couldn't you have come up with something? I hear what you're saying, the destructiveness. This is your opinion, okay? It's not fact, it's your opinion. Couldn't you have come up with something a little bit without getting a black thing into this? This is what the whole problem
You're putting the black thing into it.
No,
it never even occurred to me.
I know, but
never
Obamacare is as destructive as 1850 slave law, da-da-da. Well, that's the reason why everybody's upset.
No, they're upset because it was an effective remark. They're upset because it points out.
It was effective.
It
Oh,
points
yeah.
out the extremity of the assault
Oh,
on
it was
liberty.
effective, all right.
And they want to conduct a discussion that is similar to the one that's being conducted now on the government. You know, people are calling it a shutdown. It's really a slim down. You know, 800,000 out of 2.9
Oh,
million
we'll talk about
workers.
that. But I did want to get this. I did want to get this out of the way with you.
I want to
okay?
get this out of the way because
all right, go ahead.
look at how the discussion they want to have. You have Congressman Washington Schultz calling Republicans unhinged. You have Harry Reid calling Republicans insane people who have lost their minds. You have Dan Pfeiffer calling Republicans people with a bomb strapped to their chest. Dan Pfeiffer's an aide in the White House. You have Jay Carney, the press spokesperson for the White House for President Obama, saying that they're blatant extortionists. And you have Nancy Pelosi saying legislative arsonists. That is the type of political debate that Democrats want to have. We want to talk about principles. You want to talk about that there's evil on the other side.
So you close the government down, which is $800 million a day. And so that's 2-point-something billion, and this is the 4th day. Now, can you understand why some people would get really frustrated and maybe say foolish things?
No, I can't.
You
Because
can't. So 2-point-something billion people out of work.
Well, first of all, it's not 2.1 million, I think you're saying.
No, billion in 4 days. It's 800 million a day.
2.1 billion out of work?
No, I said money lost in this country.
It's not being lost. You know, I did an interview.
Where's it going if you don't have it to spend?
I did an interview in my job with a company called Information Week. And one of the questions she asked me is this, the answer saying, this government slowdown, are you seeing anything in business? I'm not at all. The market has factored in, has taken into account federal government dysfunction. You know, in my business, no one's saying, well, I do the contract with your business, but this government shutdown makes no difference at all. I want to make a point here. You may not be aware of it. We've become so ahistorical. We're not aware that, for example, under Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill, the Democrats in Congress 8 times had a government shutdown, 8 separate times. And the Democrat propaganda machine, which most of us know as the mainstream media, whether it's the New York Times or the Washington Post or the media, they looked at Democrat shutdowns as wonderful political theater. The appropriate thing to do.
I don't think in this particular time in history.
No. What we had recessions back then. This particular time in history.
Why do we stay in the present? If you want to go back to Ronald Reagan, we can say, yeah, smaller government. While he was there, government grew. Yeah, we gotta do something about the deficit. The deficit went up. I mean, so
heavens.
Okay, so we won't. Let's stay right here. Let's stay right here in what we are today.
You won't accept the fact that you won't accept the fact that 800,000 federal workers not coming in, so that we can stop our runaway debt, so that we can
let World War II people into an open air.
Well, isn't that horrible? Isn't that horrible? Did you see the
Did you close down?
No,
Didn't they close
Obama
it down?
did. Obama
Oh, no, wait a
closed
minute.
it down.
There's money that you can't care for these things. And I got a question.
No, let's just stop right here.
All right.
Let's stop right here. That's an open air memorial that usually during the day there's no park people there at all. Now, Obama, in order to make it appear painful, has now assigned park people to that open air memorial to keep it closed. You know what they call it? There's actually, and I want the viewers to look this up. Look up the Washington Dome Syndrome, the Washington Monument Syndrome. It's actually known. On a local level, we know it as, you're going to cut back? The school board say, well, football has to go. And on the federal level, it's, you're going to cut back? You're going to try to avoid a runaway deficit, runaway spending? We're going to have to close up the Washington
So you close the government down, and that just happens to be one of the aspects.
2.1 million of the 2.9 million federal employees are going to work every day.
Why do the Republicans now want to bring a bill up to pay to open all memorials and museums? Why? Didn't you know this before?
Because we never assumed that Obama would be so mendacious as to close open-air parks during the day, to actually call back park workers to close down something that had not been supervised at all. Do you know there's a park in
wait a minute.
Pennsylvania?
Wait, are you telling me right now that the Republicans have never done that? And they're shut down.
I didn't say anything about that.
No, the Republicans never, and they've shut down.
Said anything like
they're the ones who caused it. You didn't know Republicans didn't know this was going to happen?
Can't have it both ways. You can't talk about history at one point and talk about another, because the history here doesn't work for you guys. The history is that 8 times under Tip O'Neill, putting together budgets for the Reagan presidency, there was government shutdowns. But again, the mainstream media reaction to that is, oh, this is great political theater.
Well, I'm sure there are a lot of people out of work today who weren't born then. So if you want to keep going.
That's not that long ago. It was the 1980s.
But you guys must have known that this was going to happen.
Well, did we know that President Obama would keep Camp David open so he can go there? Did we know that he would keep
Camp David open?
Oh, yes.
Excuse me. What would they do? Shut off the electricity? I guess I'm missing going. You wouldn't have people watching that if it was open? What would you do?
We wouldn't have it fully staffed, ready to receive the president. And at the same time, we're using additional personnel then to close down an open air memorial.
No, you guys knew that in advance, and when they
no.
absolutely.
You want to know what?
And you guys never complained about it until you got bad press.
Understand why the government is closed down. It's because Harry Reid and President Barack Obama have made a political calculation that the mainstream media has our back, and so we won't negotiate. How dare the president go to a majority of representatives?
The government down. The very day Obamacare comes into existence, you close the government down.
That's the beginning of the fiscal year.
Give me a break.
Ken, that's the beginning of the fiscal year.
Okay.
That's when the continuing
Just a
resolution
coincidence that this happened?
I don't know, unless somebody back in the 1960s,
Just a
when the
coincidence.
fiscal year went from June to July, and they made it go from October 1st to September 30th.
Oh, no,
I
hear what you're saying, but what a
great way to get
coincidence
the
this is.
2013 Republicans.
You do know what the Republicans are saying now, right?
I know what the facts are, and the fact is that President Barack Obama and Majority Leader Harry Reid have said, it's our way or the highway. There's been 4 resolutions sent over to them, continuing resolutions to continue
And 42 times they voted against Obamacare, and every resolution that they come up with has something to do with ridding this country of Obamacare, except
and you know what? Everyone
let us now open up the museums, and what about the kids
and
or the families?
You know what everyone's acknowledging now? Social Security was passed as a bipartisan bill. Medicare was passed as a bipartisan bill. Plan D, the drug plan for seniors, was passed as
That was brought up by Bush, wasn't it?
It was passed by a bipartisan.
Let's give him credit
and
for
passed
that, okay?
by a bipartisan vote. There was not one Republican that voted for Obamacare. And you want to know what? That's not the way to bring forward important legislation. This president has decided to be partisan.
And who is in your back pocket? The insurance companies?
The insurance companies supported Obamacare. You can't just say these things. These are slogans, and they're subject to reality.
I didn't hear any insurance companies complaining that you guys want to stop it.
Yeah, you do.
I didn't hear any insurance companies.
Yeah, you do. The insurance companies are saying you shouldn't stop it. You know, their executives are hanging out with the Democrats saying, you know, give us our customers. We got what most, I wish I could get this, I'm back in business. I wish I could get the federal government to pass a law saying, you know, if you have to buy secured internet document handling from O'Brien's company, you know, you got to do this. That'd be a wonderful thing. I say that facetiously because that's called crony capitalism. And you know, the Obamacare, among other features, is crony capitalism.
Okay, what again, I've asked you this before, and I really didn't get a clear answer. I'd like a clear answer today, and that is, what will the Republicans do? Give me some ideas. You want to
Well,
completely dismantle Obamacare. Isn't that a good
let's-
skeleton to stick things onto?
Let's-
You
let's
just
ag-
want to get rid of it.
Let's acknowledge that this entire remake of the healthcare system that still leaves 30 million people uninsured and quadruples the premiums for young people for their insurance policies. They have to buy insurance policies at 4 times the price of what it used to cost and still has $10,000 to $12,000 deductibles. That's not the solution. There are other solutions. One of the solutions is to allow competition among insurance companies.
So
in New Hampshire, we have one individual
And that was because of the governor.
Governor Shaheen.
Okay.
And so competition, that's one way to do it.
Okay. Do you have a bill in, or is there a bill that I can get on to coming up here this next year?
We've brought that forward.
Is it coming up again?
I'm going to accept the reality of a Democrat majority who will never put up with any sort of reform like that. It isn't fair, Ken. It isn't fair to say, do you have a bill?
To bring
No,
other insurance companies into the state of New Hampshire, I cannot believe, all right, a Democrat at this particular point would disagree with the competition, because there is no competition.
You want to know what? They will vote against it.
I
brought that bill up. It's been voted against.
Well, let's just see what the bill looks like.
Anything that is different than the president's narrative, which is we've solved the problem, would be voted against by Democrats in the New Hampshire House. Let me say this as well. You said, what would we do? What's one of the things to do? Cross state border competition, allow other companies in.
I agree.
We should get rid of mandated coverages. We should allow.
I disagree.
Nationally, there's over 1,000 different state mandates of what has to go into policies. Ken, each one of them is not bad. You know, I think it's great people get bariatric surgery. You know, I think it's great that they have a chance to get infertility treatment. I think it's great. All these mandates.
How about people who have existing problems? Is that good? Is that great?
We have that. That has been solved in New Hampshire already. There is insurance for those people already.
Yeah,
it's a good thing.
So that Obamacare is not bad then?
Obamacare is bad in this sense. It's not a federal decision. It should be a state-by-state decision. If that's important to you, then go live in a state where it's being done. Most states it was being taken care of. It's the same as the 26-year-old mandate. We already had that in
I
this
ought to go to
country.
Massachusetts because I can get a particular type of insurance when I
If you
should
can
be able to
afford
get
it, if you can afford it.
competition.
If you can afford it, because Massachusetts insurance premiums are among the highest.
I
It's just
thought
a spec.
Massachusetts already had a policy. How's that running down there? Are they all crazy?
Not so well. Not so well, actually.
They're crazy?
Yes. Well, it's pretty expensive. It really is.
So that was Romney. You know, the interesting part of when he was governor and he finally got that, the interesting part of that, I know we're bouncing all over the place, but we will,
But we'll bounce.
is that if he would have turned around and said, look, I don't agree with this, but this is what I did insurance-wise, and I think it would be really important that we think in those terms. But from day one, he denied what he had done.
I don't think he denied it. He said, we tried something. There's good aspects of it and bad aspects. You should have learned from experience. Matter of fact, I can remember, I've been in rooms where he said that. I was at representing Newt Gingrich as a surrogate at some primary, what do they call those, caucuses up in Maine, in which, Romney came himself to represent himself at the caucuses. And that was his explanation for what it was worth. He said, we tried it. That's what states should do, is try out various approaches, see what works. If something works, then a bunch of other states can go towards that solution. And if he'd come and talked with us, we said we would have told him, one, this is a state thing. States ought to be doing this. And secondly, there's aspects of it that don't work so well. But they took in those aspects that don't work well.
Well, we have probably about 2 more minutes. This has been a quick half hour.
Yeah,
Then we will, the following week, continue, obviously, what we're talking about.
Right.
And we have a lot to talk about as Republicans and Democrats. I as a Democrat, I mean, I'll make it really clear, I can see trouble with Obamacare. I can see where things could be unplugged. I see where things could be plugged in. But to just say constantly, the Republican Party, let's just rid it completely and start all over. I don't think you really have to start all over. I think what you have to do is plug and unplug. Republicans don't want any of it. And I think that's a big problem.
I understand. One of the continuing resolutions has just gone over with a provision that says, you know, you've already given a waiver to the businesses. Why don't you give a waiver to individuals for a year? Let's rethink this. These exchanges aren't working well. People can't get on. No one signed up in Louisiana for the first day or two because they couldn't get on.
Well, that's a crash. I mean,
the exchange, but it's
what
not.
this tells, I know, but what this tells you is simply that everybody wants it and they can't get it because the computers are breaking.
Actually, no one could get on in Louisiana, and the government lied about the number of people that tried to get on in California.
Oh, the government. Okay, but so this has been the Art of Politics. My name is Ken Gidge. You can get me at Gidge World, which is an art website, or you can get me at kgidge@aol.com. I am also on Facebook. And by the way, if you're a Republican or a Democrat and you like what we're saying or don't, you may come on here if you wish. Mr. O'Brien.
And I'm Bill O'Brien, and Ken's good friend, I'm sure, although it becomes strained at some point. And you can reach me through my email address. It's williamlobrien@gmail.com. I'm on Facebook, and call me at any time you want to.
And this is what counts, before and after.
Thank you, Ken.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.